Hello everybody, and welcome back to GFR. Today we're talking starships, and not just any starships, the ships of the most starship-dependent universe, Star Trek. Star Trek's approach to ships is a unique one, with the universe's fictional craft fitting a specific design aesthetic with rules and in-universe physics. All of those details, rather than being limiting factors, are ways to make everything about Star Trek ships feel more real as the pointed ears on Leonard Nimoy's head. But which Star Trek ship is the best? We've ranked them, 1 through 10. Here we go. Coming in at number 10 is the Borg Cube.
Mr. Worf, dispatch a subspace message to Admiral Hansen. We have engaged the Borg.
The classic Borg cube design is brilliant in its simplicity. It is quite literally a cube floating in space. It has no visible propulsion, no visible weapons, and yet, it's one of the most menacing things ever seen on screen. The first Borg cube was designed by writer Maurice Hurley and production designer Richard James for the TNG episode which first introduced the Borg. It was first described in the script this way. The shape of the ship is more apparent. It's box-like, with none of the aerodynamic qualities associated with most spaceships, including the Enterprise. This is a case of form following function. A standard Borg cube measures 3,037 meters per side and can carry a crew of up to 130,000 Borg drones. For comparison, the Galaxy-class Enterprise D is only 642 meters in length. Though other types of Borg craft have appeared over the years, a Borg cube is still the most fear-inspiring thing in Star Trek's fictional universe. Resistance is futile. Get ready to make old-school fans go crazy, because here comes our number 9 ship. Coming in at number 9 is the Constitution-class Retcon, first introduced on Star Trek Discovery and now flying across the galaxy every week on Star Trek Strange New Worlds. The Retcon version of the Enterprise is much bigger than the classic television series version. Pike's ship is 288 meters long, has 22 decks, and carries a crew complement of 230. The Constitution-class Retcon keeps all the things that were great about the original Constitution class, which debuted back in the 60s on Star Trek, while fixing all the problems about it that were largely the result of the limited technology of the time. It's so good that now I prefer it to the original, hallowed be its name. Number 8 on our list of the best Star Trek ships is the Vulcan-Shurok class. Before the formation of the Federation, Vulcans had the most powerful fleet in the Alpha Quadrant. Of all their ships, the Shurok class was the fastest and most powerful vessel in their defense force. It's also the most beautiful. Before Starfleet homogenized things and focused on double nacelle warp drive designs, the Vulcans used warp rings to power their starships. That, combined with the long, pointed body of the class, makes it look both delicate and deadly. Like the delicate designs of Starfleet ships, this is the kind of ship that could only ever exist in outer space. The class was designed for the series Star Trek Enterprise by production designer Doug Drexler. It was the first ever Vulcan-designed starship seen on screen. The Shurok measures 309 meters in length, has 11 decks, and carries a standard crew complement of 175 very stoic Vulcans. Coming in at number 7 is the iconic Galaxy-class starship, made famous by the Enterprise on Star Trek The Next Generation. The Galaxy class is one of the biggest ships ever produced by Starfleet, measuring 642 meters in length with 42 decks and a standard crew complement of 1,000. In a pinch though, the Galaxy class is capable of packing in over 15,000 people. What's most unusual about the Galaxy class is that, despite its popularity among fans and utility in the Star Trek universe, the design is kind of a one-off. While other designs, like the Nebula class, were based on it, they never captured the same feel. There isn't another ship in Star Trek even remotely like it. Before the Galaxy class was the era of the Art Deco starship, and after, things shifted to the more spoon-shaped style of the Intrepid and Sovereign class. Any design this unique demands to be on this list. Coming in at number 6 is the rarely seen Ambassador class. The Ambassador class starship lingered in the background for years on the Next Generation, first appearing in the form of relief on the history wall of the Enterprise de-observation lounge. Eventually, it made a full appearance in the iconic Star Trek The Next Generation episode Yesterday's Enterprise as the Enterprise C. The ship was created by TNG production designer Andrew Probert. Probert claims that the relief on the wall of the Enterprise D was always intended to be another class of ship the Enterprise would encounter. The Ambassador bridges the design gap between the Excelsior-class Enterprise and the Galaxy-class Enterprise, combining some of the best elements of both to create something that's as good as, and in some ways even better, than the two designs it sits between. At number 5 on our best Trek ships list is the Sovereign class. The Sovereign was designed to be the eye-popping, movie version vessel for the Star Trek The Next Generation crew. It debuted in Star Trek First Contact, and that movie's production team's goal was to do for Picard's Enterprise what the Constitution class refit did for Captain Kirk's. Yet unlike the Enterprise refit, the E was not a refit of the Galaxy-class ship that preceded it. The Enterprise name was instead put on Starfleet's newest and most advanced class of ship. The Sovereign was created by legendary designer John Eaves under the supervision of Herman Zimmerman. The already in-service Intrepid class on Star Trek Voyager was a clear influence on the design, but the Sovereign was the next step forward in Intrepid's design evolution. With a crew complement of only 700, the Sovereign is a sleeker and slightly smaller ship than the Galaxy class which came before it. It's also more dangerous, having been designed by Starfleet specifically for the purpose of fighting the Borg. There are no families living on a Sovereign. They are designed for danger. The E is lean, mean, super fast, and the most ultra high-tech vessel Starfleet of that time was able to produce. At number 4 is the pinnacle of Klingon design aesthetics, the Klingon Bird of Prey. The Klingon Bird of Prey was designed by the Empire solely for attack with little thought to defense, and it looks every bit that part. In practice, it has proven to be far more than a fast attack craft, and over time became one of the most versatile and beloved ships in the Klingon fleet. The Bird of Prey has several different, related subclasses. Visually they're all much the same, though there is wide variation in size between them. The standard version you're most used to is only 109 meters long, and carries a standard crew complement of 12 Klingon warriors. The first Bird of Prey model was originally designed for use in Star Trek III, The Search for Spock. That version of the ship was conceived of as small and powerful, a utility for making war. Like all the effects in Star Trek III, the Bird of Prey was designed by ILM. The ship would go on to make appearances in nearly every form of the Star Trek franchise from then on.
Sir, Excelsior powering up with orders to pursue.
At number 3 on our list of the best Star Trek ships is Excelsior, The Great Experiment. In canon, the Excelsior-class ship was designed as the United Federation of Planets' first foray into transwarp drive. The first Excelsior-class ship, Excelsior, received the NX designation as an experimental craft. That experiment failed, but the Excelsior class lived on after being converted to use a more traditional warp drive. This was the ship that replaced the Constitution class and, like the Miranda class, it served as one of the backbones of Starfleet for decades. The Excelsior-class ship would go on to make appearances in nearly every Star Trek movie, and every series up until Star Trek Discovery. The model itself was designed by artists at ILM for use in The Search for Spock. The idea behind the ship was that it needed to look so brilliant, it would steal the thunder from the Enterprise. They succeeded. Excelsiors are big ships, especially by the standards of Captain Kirk's era. Each Excelsior is 466 meters long and carries a standard crew complement of 777. The Excelsior class would, after many years of service, eventually get a refit. The refit version is generally the same as the original. The main difference is 2 flared-out sections on the ship's engineering hull as seen on the Enterprise B in Star Trek Generations.
Now, Mr. Spock.
At number 2 is a ship that is almost without a doubt the most commonly seen ship in all of Star Trek, the Miranda class. Star Trek fans were first introduced to the Miranda class starship in the Wrath of Khan. That ship, named the US Reliant, is still the most famous representation of the class, but the model was reused endlessly in everything Trek that followed. The Miranda measures 277 meters in length and carries a crew complement of 220. The ship itself is infinitely customizable, with ability to swap out the pods on its distinctive roll bar depending on the ship's mission profile. The Miranda class was originally designed the other way around, with the nacelles above the disc. When drawings of the design were sent to Star Trek II producer Harve Bennett, he accidentally looked at them upside down. He approved the design, and everyone suddenly realized it actually looked better upside down anyway.
Time's up, Admiral.
Here it comes.
We have cleared space tours.
And, finally, the icon, the legend. The best ship in Star Trek's vast fleet of starships is the Constitution-class refit. For Star Trek The Motion Picture, a new movie version of the Enterprise was needed. Legendary designer Matt Jeffries came up with the idea of keeping the iconic shape of the Enterprise, but updating it with a more movie-like aesthetic. In canon, this new Enterprise was meant to be the same ship people were used to from the television show, just upgraded with new features. The ship itself is almost Art Deco in its design. The grills on the nacelles evoke designs from that period. The saucer section is in perfect balance with the engineering section. More than any other Star Trek ship, the refit Enterprise feels like a starship that is not only designed for space, but could only ever exist in a place without gravity. Matt Jeffries' incredible work on the original Constitution class and its refit has endured. Decades later, it lingers in pop culture consciousness as the most recognizable symbol of Star Trek and one of the most recognizable and iconic fictional creations of all time. There you have it, the 10 best Star Trek ships of all time. What are we missing? A lot. We hear you Voyager fans, but the Intrepid just didn't quite make the cut. While the Intrepid is justifiably beloved, it never really hit the right notes aesthetically. If we'd gone to 15, Deep Space Nine's Defiant would have made the cut, and we likely would have had a few more oddballs, like the Romulan Valdor or the Prometheus class. Don't send us hate mail, just use the comments to tell us how wrong we are. We might even respond to admit defeat, but probably not. Until next time, this has been GFR.
All I ask is a tall ship and a star to steer by.